means a lot, you know, sending these seniors out on a great note. And, you know, always beating rivalry teams, it just, you know, put the icing on the cake of why you came to a university like this. So, you know, put the icing on the cake to beat Florida Gators 3 years in a row. And, you know, it's a great feeling, man.
So you had David Dalvin on the scoreboard. You jumped in the fans with the stands with the fans. What was that like, man? Just recapping all that.
You know, these fans here do a great job of setting the atmosphere. Every Saturday we have a home game, and you know, every time we're going dope. So you know, you got to reward them with getting them wins, and you know, going and enjoy the W against Florida. So you know, I enjoyed every moment out there with them fans, man.
Could you hear them cheering your name from the stands on the other side?
Yeah, that's the type of fans we got, man. You know, you do great things for this program, and they're gonna reward you, man. So, you know, it was a great thing out there. You know, I just embraced the whole moment.
Dalvin, you and specifically in your whole team, you guys just have a way of playing well in rivalry games and living up to the hype. How do you guys consistently deliver in games like this?
Well, you control your emotions during the week, and you know, you always think back in your head. You know, Coach Fisher and these coaches do a great job of reminding us, you know, these the big games that you always dreamed of as a kid, and you know, why not give it your all? And you know, that's the message we preach in that locker room in big games like that, and you know, especially against Florida. So you know, if you're gonna be a good player and at this level, you know, your expectations of going to a game like that got to raise, and you know, we raise our expectations every game, and you know, Florida, you know, it's one of those days we gonna raise our expectations out the roof, and we play a good football game.
See the shirt you got on. Do you think you should get more Heisman consideration?
Man, I'm just playing ball, man.
No,
Had to ask.
You guys have a chance to play in a New Year's Six Bowl. Did you guys know that going into the game with Louisville's loss? And did you guys want to take more advantage of that?
We actually couldn't, you know, watch the games today because we were so caught up in meetings and stuff. So, you know, we didn't know. I actually didn't know till you just told me. So, you know, another winning season for us, and you know, just to show we got better and better every week. So, you know, we just got to finish up in this bowl game.
Dalvin, before the game, when I saw Greg Allen, you just broke his touchdown record tonight. Did you ever thought about that? And what did that mean to you to break that record?
It meant a lot, you know. When I sit back and watch some of these guys, you know, play the position, how they play the position at Florida State, and to be sitting on top of these guys, man, it mean a whole lot to me, man. And you know, I'm just thankful, and you know, I'm just blessed to be at the top of that list, man.
Being a part of games like this and experiencing this with your teammates, how much does that make you want to come back to your senior season?
You know, this team right here will make anybody want to come back. You know, these young guys, the way they go out there and practice, you know, the love they show you, you know, it makes you want to be a freshman all over again. So, you know, we got some great group of guys in that locker room, man. And you would never want to leave Florida State, you know, with these dudes, man. We enjoyed our year, man, and you know, we're gonna finish it off the right way.
With that being said, do you think this was your last game at Dope?
I can't answer that question.
You haven't made that last decision yet, but if it were to be your last game, how do you want the fan base, how do you want Florida State to remember you?
I think I did a great job of, you know, leaving my mark at Florida State. And, you know, I think these fans and everybody know, I love Florida State. You know, I wouldn't have changed my decision for nothing in the world. You know, this fan base, the athletic people, you know, the academics, everybody, you know, they do a great job of, you know, just showing the love and, you know, making college a fun experience.
The last couple of weeks, Jimbo was talked about going to the LSU job. Are the players aware of what his situation could be? And do you go and talk to Jimbo about the possible situation? Do the players go and talk to Jimbo, or are they aware of his possible coaching possibilities?
No, we know Coach Fisher love us, man. You know, it wasn't nothing to be talked about, you know. But, you know, the media gonna be the media, and you know it's gonna be everybody gonna have something to say. But you know, we know Coach Fisher hard at. You know he loved his group, and you know that's where he at right now. I ain't gonna answer that question.
The first Florida State back since but you've had some good games. How much do you get up for these state games?
You know, like I said, you know, This one of the reasons you come to Florida State to play in big time games like this. You know, you got to seize the moment. These moments don't come around, but every year. So this the game you schedule on the calendar. The beginning of the year, Florida, Miami, games like that, and prepare for them all year, and you got to take advantage of the moment, man.
For you guys to be able to finish in a New Year's Six Bowl, if that happens, how big of an accomplishment is that?
It's very big. It just show the fight we had in us, ups and downs in this season, and it'll be a big accomplishment for this team that we fought back all year, and that was a goal for us. Obviously the big goal was national championship, but that was one of our goals, getting the big time bowl game. That'll be big for us, man. That'll be very big, and be down there in Miami. That's some good stuff right there.
Dalvin, after struggling a little bit during the season as a team, the question was asking, what do you guys play for tonight? Is this the epitome of what you play for?
Exactly, it definitely is. When people ask questions like that, it kind of make me laugh. We work so hard, and we put all this time in, spend all these hours at the stadium and do stuff like that. To have moments like this in that locker room, to hold that gated head up and do stuff like that. So this is what we all work for, and this is what we kept fighting through the season for.
One more. Can you talk about the offensive line, the protection that they gave tonight? Just on the offensive line performance that's improved this season?
Hands down, one of the best games they had yet. You got to commend those guys. I commend those guys every week for the success I done had at Florida State. So you got to commend those guys. They played one of the best overall games, and they got better and better every week. Took the coaching from Coach Trickett, corrected their mistakes, and they got better, man.